Hello everyone and welcome back. Today I want to talk to you guys about using the Holosun 3X magnifier with your Holosun 503G ACSS red dot. Okay, this red dot has that bullet drop compensator. The reticle looks like this. Right, it looks like a horseshoe with a chevron and 3 dots. This is what it's supposed to look like. And this is what it looks like when it's magnified. If you're not using the magnifier, it kind of looks like that. You know, the 3 dots kind of get faded into each other. Chevron looks a little, a little squiggly. You know, I really like this red dot. In the past, I've used it without a magnifier. So about a month ago, I decided to get the magnifier, start experimenting a little bit with it. And I quickly discovered that there was a zero shift when I went from magnified to not magnified. And here's an example, okay? You know, I was shooting this at 50 yards. So at 50 yards, magnified, you know, here I got a 1-inch group, okay? Then I went not magnified, and here I have a 1/2-inch group, okay? So there's basically a 4-inch shift from magnified to not magnified. Now I wasn't trying to get like a best group or anything, but these groups are tight enough that I can tell that it's not a problem with my aiming. This is actually what what the lens is doing. The lens is shifting the point of aim. Okay, so I came up with a solution that works well. I'll tell you the details afterwards of how I got to it, but let me jump into what I'm doing, and that's working really well. So what I'm doing is I zero in magnified with the tip of the chevron at the bottom of the bullseye. Okay, so that's magnified. And then when I shoot not magnified, instead of putting my chevron at the bottom, right, because that's what was shifting this thing down, what I do is I put my chevron on it. So the chevron is functioning as a red dot on top of it, and then my groupings are pretty much on top of each other. Okay, so that's been working pretty good for me. I have tested this repeatedly at different distances. Over here, I shot this today with at 100 yards. I used a 22 conversion bolt, so I'm actually shooting this with 22s at 100 yards. So first I shot it with the tip of the chevron. You know, first I shot it magnified, tip of the chevron over here. You know, I got some shots over here. Then I went not magnified, moved my chevron on top of it, and the shots were pretty much on top of, 22s were pretty much on top of it. Now, mind you, there's wind today. You can see the wind ribbons moving a little bit, so it did open up the group and shift it off to the right a little bit. But this method is working. So that's what I'm going to advise. Zero it in magnified, and then, when you want to shoot not magnified, instead of putting your chevron at the base, just put your chevron on it as you would a red dot. So now that I told you what works, let me tell you a little bit about the magnifier and how all this came about. In the past, I was not a big fan of magnifiers. My thought was that either go red dot or go variable 1 to 8. The reason is primarily weight. Okay, the combination of red dot plus this magnifier, this weighs 1 pound 5 ounces. My primary arms 1 to 8. Right, the variable scope, that weighs 1 pound 8 ounces. So for an extra 3 ounces, I'm getting 8 times magnification versus 3 times magnification. So simply based on the weight, it didn't make sense for me to put on a pound, to go to 1 pound 5 ounces just to get 3 times magnification. So that's why in the past I was like, okay, either red dot only or variable scope. The thing that really turned me on to this is when I found out how easily this is removable. Because this has a little quick detach thing here that brings this off, and now all of a sudden I have a very light rifle. And you can throw this basically in your pouch or in your backpack or whatever, and then when you want to go magnified, you just get this back on there. There you go. And it locks in place. There's a button that you push here and then you pull it out, so it really locks it in place tight. So that's the thing that really has turned me on to this. The fact that you can you have the ability to put a magnifier on any red dot, and it comes off so easily, and it goes back on so easily. Now it works especially well with the ACSS reticle design, because with most red dots, even if they're like a 2 MOA, well, when you magnify it, that 2 MOA becomes a 6 MOA. Okay, but with this 503G that has this ACSS reticle, instead of putting the dot on it, right? So now you got a 6 MOA dot on your target. You're putting the tip underneath it. So by putting the tip of the chevron underneath it, you have the ability, even though this chevron is kind of blown up, you're able to put this underneath it, and you're able to, you have a fine point that you're able to focus on. So I find that this works really well. It gives you really nice tight groupings at distance. Okay, so that's why I really like this combination, the 503G with the 503G with this magnifier. When I initially when I got this, and I saw that shift, that 3 to 4 inch shift, my thoughts were like, okay, this is horrible. This is not going to work. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to zero in with the magnifier, or am I supposed to zero in without the magnifier? And I have this 4 inch gap, and 4 inch shift. Am I supposed to kind of split the difference? So I threw this thing on the side for about a week. I talked to a couple of people that have also been shooting for a while. I got different ideas. Some people said that, hey, that's just that kind of goes with territory. If you're going to be shooting a magnifier, you're gonna have this this shift. You just gotta learn your holdovers and your adjustments. And then I had some other people I spoke to, and they're like, you know what? It's the way you're anchoring to your face. There should be no shift. And I'm like, they're like, you're not putting your face on the same place on the stock, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense. I've been shooting for a long time. When I come up, my face is always on the same spot. If I close my eyes, bring the gun up, open my eyes, my reticle is in the center of my scope. So I've been shooting long enough to know that I am consistently putting my face on the same place on the rifle. So that has to be an actual shift. So after thinking about it some more, what I did is I started shooting some other rifles. I pulled out my 1-to-8 primary arms 1-to-8 that had the variable scope, and the way that system is set up, right? Because that's the same reticle as this. If you're shooting 5.56, you're supposed to zero in at 100 yards. Tip of the chevron goes at the bottom of the bullseye, right? And then what they tell you is when you're shooting at close distance, that you bring it down to 1 power, and the whole horseshoe, right? The whole circle functions as a red dot, right? So you just put the whole thing on your target. So I thought about that a little bit more, and I said, wait a second, if you're putting the whole thing and you're centering it on the target, then that means that the chevron is going to be on it rather than underneath it. So I said, so that kind of gave me the idea to say, hey, let me try this again, and this time I'm going to put the chevron on it. When I'm not using magnification, I'm going to put the chevron on it instead of underneath it. And then I saw that it was working well for me. So I don't know. I mean, for all I know, this might actually be in the instructions, and I just never looked at it. So maybe they actually tell you to do it this way, but and it's that I found out the hard way. But either way, this is what's working, and if you don't already know about it, now you do, and you can try it out. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it. If you're not a member of my channel, please subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.